Okay, so what we will do is, and I can see a few hands are up. I will give you the time and the patience and the space to ask questions, but allow me to start with a few things on the floor. I do want to do the housekeeping. Please make sure your team members, if you've allocated them, are on the WhatsApp group that we've put you as a part of, or on this call. That's a request that I have, because we have to take our team members along, because your team is going to be a reflection of how good you are together, right? So just make sure that you do that. Shaurya and Sanskriti, is there necessarily a question that you need to ask at this point of time? Please go ahead. Are you able to mute yourself, unmute yourself and ask? Kamal, are you there on the call? Shreya, am I audible to you?
Yes, you're perfectly audible.
And is anybody able to unmute? I mean, so Sanskriti, if you raise your hand, are you able to unmute yourself and ask? No, she's not able to ask. Just 1 second. Just give me 1 second. Let's just solve this, because we want to make sure that this is interactive. Okay. She'll just ask Kamal to allow them to unmute when the time comes. But till that time, just hold on to your questions. Let me do a little bit of introduction, and I just keep your hands up for a bit. So I welcome you all, like I said, to IIT Delhi Debutant. If for all of you who've known us will know that we've enjoyed debating. We are known to be the largest Indian debating league academy, had got nearly 4,000 kids to debate earlier, and that journey has been coming on. This is Harish Natarajan in the center of the page, the gentleman who defeated IBM Watson, and he's one of the mentors for us. So Akshat, Sanskriti, just hold on till I have my team member allow you to unmute yourself. Just hold on to your question. But more importantly, this year we've enjoyed putting the teams across for Harvard, for Oxford Union and Prague debating. And one of the debates that we are doing now is in the same spirit, right? And the one that we are talking about right now is obviously IIT Delhi debutant. IIT Delhi, you all know what IIT Delhi is. It's one of the best engineering college. They were running a fest called Rendezvous, and we sort of requested them to make sure that the high schoolers are able to participate as well, right? So there we have the finals happening on 24th of April. But before the finals happen, which is for grade 7 and above, we wanted to make sure that you are very... Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
So we wanted to make sure that you are well prepared, which means that from grade 7 to grade 12, I want to make sure that all of you do 2-3 days of training with us. So let me share what the days will look like. We are going to be doing training from 18th to 20th of April, from 7:30 to 8:30 p.m., right? And that will be followed by matches which will happen on 21st and 22nd of April. Kamal, just allow them to unmute themselves. Are you there on the group, Kamal, now?
Yes, they are allowed
yes,
to.
ma'am. Now we are
Okay.
unable to.
Yeah. So just still hold on. I'll give you a pause moment to ask your questions. Let me finish the flow. So you are going to be doing online Zoom matches from 4:30 to 8:30 p.m. on 21st and 22nd of April. And you are going to get one as a prepared motion and one unprepared motion, which means that today, end of the day, we will give you one motion to prepare for along with your team members. And one we will give you as a quick surprise. You will have 30 minutes of preparation time before that. And the top 24 students across, which will be 12 teams, will compete at IIT Delhi on 24th of April. Correct. And the other thing that we are looking at as a quick surprise is we are trying to see if we can put a novice final as well, because we know a lot of you have joined in afresh, right? Before I go any further, are there any questions? And you could please raise your hand. Let's raise your hand and let me just call that out. We were waiting for Sanskriti to speak. Sanskriti, quick, brief questions, not very long questions. Okay, let's go.
Yes, ma'am. I want to ask that there is one of my partner. I have not put her name in my registration, but she has put. So can we become in one team?
See, okay. So what I've done is that I could see that approximately 180 of you have registered, right? But we could see most of you, if you put a partner's name, then that person has also registered and we could pair you up, right? So I could put, say, Niharika and Shaurya together because both of them have paid and both of them are there on the data. But I have a list of 8-9 children that we were trying to reach where I can't see the partner. So if you have any partner that has to please come into place, I think 7-8 of you are left. Please do that today because I can't entertain.
Ma'am, sorry to disturb you. In the registration form, by mistake, I have filled my name in the partner, but I am having my partner as a debate company.
Okay, I hear you. So Abhi, do you all know Hello Ugly's number? If you don't, I'm just going to put it on the group as well. Kamal, just put Hello Ugly's number, please. And let all of you, whoever have a doubt or whoever have a conversation, whoever have a concern on saying, okay, this guy is my partner, please ping it over there. Let me just double check it today. Right?
And also a question that
hold on. We have to keep moving. Ayansha, if you don't, that's Hello Ugly's number that has gone into the chat box. I want you all to please save it. Right? That is Kamal sir's number. He's also looking at just making sure that you all are comfortable. The other thing is that if you don't have a partner, don't worry. Any which way, we have many people who need to be dynamically paired, which means that we'll say, okay, these two children are from the same city. Why don't we pair them together? Majority of you have given a preference, so it's not so difficult. Any other questions on team pairing? Let's get that out of the way first.
If we haven't filled on who we want to be a partner with, but we actually want to be a partner with someone,
so there are two things. If I know that I want to partner with a person called Mr. B, then the Mr. B also has to register on the form, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. If he has done that, please just drop a quick message and say, hey, listen, I'm so and so, my partner is so and so. Can you please double check that? Or better still, I'm going to send the team formation list after 9 p.m. today. Why don't you look at it and then tell us? Most of you will realize that it's all sorted out anyway.
In the group, right?
Yes, ma'am. It will avoid confusion as well.
I think so. Yeah, let's do that. So on the team formation, just hold your horses for now. I'm going to share that list. You will see that it's already in place. If there's an exception, we'll address it. Any other questions on the team?
I have a
ma'am. One more. As I'm new this time, I am doing this first time. So how we have to campaign with our partner in starting in debate?
Yeah, I'm going to break the session into 2-3 ways. One is the fact that today we are doing a session between 7:30 to 8:30. We will do something similar tomorrow also, 19th and 20th. So after I have done, we are at 7:40. I will take another 10 minutes to tell you about the logistics bit of it. And then Shreya ma'am will go into the technicalities and the format of the debate. So all questions with respect to the debate, just pause your thoughts till she takes her class with you. I can see a lot of you have got questions. Why don't you keep pinging it on the group also in parallel? Can I just finish the session in terms of what we want to tell you? Maybe a lot of your questions will get answered in that. Right? Mantik, Akshar, does that work? Okay. So just hold on. I think that will be far more effective a way. So let me just keep moving forward. So we went over this discussion, which is that we are going to be doing finals. The finals is an offline match. Obviously, that will be very exciting, but we will make sure that we do a mini orientation on 23rd for the finalist. Now, just before I go forward, I want to show of hands. And Shreya ma'am, this is for you. Shreya ma'am is going to do the training today. How many of you have done debating in British parliamentary before? Thumbs up, please. I'm going to count the thumbs up. So give me a thumbs up on how many of you are comfortable with British parliamentary so that we have a sense of the group ones. All right. Okay, MUNs are good, slightly different from debating. You are not going to be competing with university students, Share. I'm quickly going to keep posting your questions on the group. I'll keep answering that as I keep seeing them as well. The teams will remain the same continuously from the time you're starting now till the time that you are playing the finals as well. Right? All right. Okay. So any other questions that you have, guys, just post it on the group quickly. Yeah. Now, I can see less hands on British parliamentary. How many of you have done debating before? And when I see debating, I'm not calling out MUNs right now. I'm just saying debating. Can I see a debating thumbs up, please? Wow. Okay, the numbers are rising fast. So I'm assuming when you say debating, you've done one-on-one debating, and you have done Asian parliamentary debating, where 3 team members compete with another. Okay, so I can see 30 participants who raised their hands, 31 participants who raised their hands out of 146. Any more show of hands on that one, on debating as such? Okay, and if I were to, so I can see 47 people out of a group of 147 have done debating. If I were to add MUNs, how many of you are plus MUNs? Okay, I'm seeing
Ma'am,
the
what is the meaning of MUNs?
Model United Nations. You will start hearing more about it as you come towards the 9th class onwards. And don't worry about team members. We just answer those questions. If I can't see a team member, I will pair you up, right? We will make sure.
Yes, ma'am. In our school, every year MUNs are held. I'm a part of Interact Club as well.
Lovely. So now, Mayo boys, I know it's dinner time. So if you do want to exit, please feel free to do that. World schools, lovely, can see that. I'm coming to your question, Anand, on the format, right? So I could see 10, 12 hands go up incrementally for MUNs. That's lovely. The point is that as long as you've got yourself invested in making sure that you express yourself, you are in a good area, right? Which means that you will be getting a chance to look at a topic and debate on it. So Shreya ma'am, with that context, if I can handle the session back to you, all of you, I want you to please, you can all put on your hands, please don't tire yourself. I want you to all make sure that if questions come to your mind, you can keep putting them on the chat box. Let Shreya ma'am finish her flow. So what she will do today is that obviously because we are going to debate in British parliamentary format, she's going to tell you what is British parliamentary, why is it the most exciting format to debate on, right? So allow her to run the session, and please, if there are any doubts that come to you, you will put it on the chat box till she sort of pauses and say, I'm going to now allow you to ask questions. Does that work?
Yes, it does.
I love this group. Shreya ma'am, are you there?
Right. Yeah, I'm there.
Lovely. Over to you, ma'am.
Hello. Good evening to one and all present here. I can see almost sort of 145 people who have joined in. Some of you and most of you have debated, but very few of you have debated in sort of the British parliamentary format. So on the surface, it may seem that British parliamentary is a lot more challenging because sort of there are 4 teams involved into it, with just one team moving forward to the next round. But trust me, once you absorb the role expectations of the role fulfillment and the format very carefully, you will be able to sort of excel in this format as well. So please bear with me for the next 20-30 minutes. So I'll start screen sharing. Let me know if it's visible to you. Yeah. So I hope you're able to see my screen. So here we'll understand the basic British parliamentary format, the speaker roles, as well as the POI. So before we begin, anybody who would like to respond, what do you see a basic difference between an Asian parliamentary debate and a British parliamentary debate? A basic difference.
I don't know the difference.
Yeah, anybody who would like to respond.
In British parliamentary, you don't get to use any resources to research.
Yeah, I think it's there in every debate. Ideally, you should not be using any resources in your preparation time. You should be jotting down your arguments. But yeah, the basic difference is that in Asian parliamentary or any kind of conventional debating that we see, there's a clear difference between the proposition side and the opposition side. One speaking for the motion, other one speaking against the motion. But what makes British parliamentary so challenging is that there are 4 teams competing against each other, 2 speaking for the motion and 2 speaking against the motion. So that is what a basic structure of BPD looks like. We have 4 teams, right? Government side, we have 2 teams. Opposition side, we have 2 teams. What are the team compositions? First team, we have opening government, one who's speaking for the motion. Under the opening government, we have 2 speakers, Prime Minister, Deputy Prime Minister. Now, who will go for Prime Minister, who will go for Deputy Prime Minister? That's up to the team's discretion. Within the team, you can decide on the basis of what are you good at. If you feel that you are good in giving sort of introduction and starting off with the constructive and your partner is good in rebuttal, so accordingly you can calibrate. right? So we have opening governments. First speaker is the prime minister, second speaker is the deputy prime minister. And then we have the opening opposition, leader of opposition and deputy leader of opposition. This is the basic team composition of opening team. Now coming to the closing teams, we have closing government, two speakers, member of government, government whip. Then coming to the closing opposition, member of opposition, opposition whip. This is the basic format. And this is the basic team composition, just the nomenclature part. So any question in that regard?
And this is where we will spend the maximum time.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Just
Ma'am, do mayor boys need to stay?
no, you can carry on for your dinner. Thank you so much,
Thank you, ma'am.
dear boys. Now, I want everybody to be super comfortable. We don't have to do it for anybody else, but for ourselves. All of you, please put down your hands unless you genuinely have a question. Is there any doubt that you have on what a basic structure of British parliamentary is, like Shreya ma'am asked?
Didn't quite understood this.
Ma'am, I did not understood.
Achha, okay. And have you all put your grades in front of your name?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So, Shreya ma'am, do you want to go? Why don't we ask anybody who's understood if they'd like to take a call on explaining it once?
May I try to explain?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, so there are basically 4 teams, 2 prop and 2 op. And the prop in BB is called government, not proposition. They're basically the same thing.
Yes.
There's 2 opening teams, which means that they speak in the first half. And then there's 2 closing teams, which means they speak in the second half. The first team is called opening government. The second opening team is called opening opposition, or OO. Then we have CG and CO, which are closing government and closing opposition. So instead of having just 2 teams which are competing against each other, you have 4 teams which are all competing against each other, and you compete against each other even when you're arguing for the same side of the motion or on the same bench.
Yeah. So absolutely, I couldn't have done a better job than you did. Thank you so much. Now for the students who are younger over here, so just hold on. The point is that your pair is 1 and 3 is one pair, right? One team. When you are proposition, you are speaking for the motion. The government proposes something. Those are important words. Here they're speaking for the motion. Anybody who's against is opposition, which is the one on the right side of the slide, right? So wait up for the roles that are given to you. Once the role is given to you, it is as simple as saying, say if my motion is, should zoos be banned? Either I'm going to speak for it or I'm going to speak against it, right? So hold on to what the motion is and hold on to what your role given is. So let's take an example over here. And I think who had the doubt? Who are some of the students who said, I have a doubt on this one?
Yeah, I think once we start taking examples, it will be cleared. We have some of the parts remaining. Yeah.
Lovely. So then, Shreya, let's go one by one, because all of you, when you will get your team members, one, you will know who your team member name is, and the team, yes, Uttam, we are halfway through dividing the teams. Only few of you have not given team preferences, which we will pair after this call. But once you get your team member, you will also get what is the role that you're playing. Are you playing opening government? Are you playing opening opposition? And depending on that role is where you will debate. Right. So Shreya ma'am, maybe we could move to the next bit, which is that what is the role of a certain team?
All right, so I'll be moving to the next one. So here we understand the 2 government teams speaking for the motion, 2 opposition teams speaking against the motion, and we understood the team composition as well as the structure. Now regarding the motion or the topic, it will be announced 30 minutes before the debate for the unprepared motions. So you need to calibrate with your team member as to what part of your constructives and arguments you will be explaining and what part of your arguments your team member is comfortable with. So no internet teachers helping in the prep time. Ideally, nobody should be helping you, neither the internet nor the teacher and the coaches. Now coming to the speech, the maximum time limit of the speech is 5 minutes, right? Any confusion in that regard? I think I'll be moving to the next slide.
Ma'am, it is important to speak till 5, or what is minimum and what is maximum time?
There's no minimum time. You should ideally speak for 5 minutes because you'll be having your constructives. Why should you give your time to somebody else? So ideally speak for 5 minutes. Even if you finish off, I guess 4:40 or 4:45, that should be okay, but do not speak for like 3 minutes or even 4 minutes. 4:30 is okay, 4:45 is okay, but not less than that. All right.
Ma'am, like one person will get 5 minutes for speaking.
Yes, each and every one of you, irrespective of the team you're in, is irrespective of the speaker role that you have, will be getting 5 minutes.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, ma'am. So, ma'am, the motion we will get, ma'am, in both the round, ma'am, 30 minutes before the debate.
No, in first round, you'll get the motion prepared. You will have the prepared motion. You will be given the motion prior to the debate itself.
Okay, but ma'am, the main round, ma'am, ma'am, their motion will be given 30 minutes before.
Yes, yes, you got it right. Yeah, go ahead.
Just one thing. I just want to say one thing. I just want to say one thing. All of you, if you're going to do a DM to me, my team cannot watch your questions. Okay. So it's all right. Any question that you ask is not a funny question. It's all okay to put it with everybody seeing it. So put the question to everybody on the group because we are all watching it, right? And we'll keep addressing all of them. Yeah.
While the opponent team or a second ally team is speaking, so do we have to wait for the time to be over to contradict them, or can we contradict them in between?
No, you can contradict, as in a proper rebuttal can only happen once they finish off their speeches. POI can be raised, that I'll talk about later on. POI can be raised at the 1st and 4th minute, but only one question, not rebuttals and not cross questioning, right? Once you start raising a question, they respond to it, and no cross questioning for that matter. But in a rebuttal, you have full freedom to cross question as many arguments as you can. So that is very different from a PO. So since so many people have the confusion in the composition and structure of the debate, I'll iterate once again with sort of an example. Let's suppose the example is this house will support online learning. Some very basic example, right? Some very basic motion. Now, there are two teams supporting the motion. What do I mean when I say support the motion? I mean that two teams are in the government, which means they're speaking for the motion, which means I support online learning. Two teams are speaking against the motion, which means they do not support online learning. That is the basic difference. Now, two teams are there in support, two teams are there in against. Those two teams who are there in support, we call them as government teams, right? Those two teams who are in the opposition, we refer to them as the opposition team. Now, within those government and opposition team, we have the bifurcation. We have the division of opening teams and closing teams. So in the opening teams, we have opening government, opening opposition. Opening government speaking for the motion, opening opposition speaking against the motion. Then in the closing teams, we have closing government and closing opposition. Keep that distinction between proposition and opposition clear. So we have one bifurcation, right? Opening teams, opening government, opening opposition, closing teams, closing government, closing opposition. Opening government. Yeah, just allow me to finish. Opening government and closing government speaking for the motion, opening opposition and closing opposition speaking against the motion. So government and opposition is the basic term which you can use to distinguish the two stance that you're presenting, for and against. Otherwise, closing and opening is all about the team composition and the bifurcation that we have. All right. Yeah, you were having some question.
Yeah, ma'am. Like you said that the government who will be speaking for the motion will be two teams. So in two teams, that two teams can decide, discuss with themselves, or like two teams can discuss or not.
No, only one team. Suppose you and Puranjay form a team, right? So you and Puranjay are a team of opening government. So there are two members in one team. So those two members can discuss within themselves. But in opening government, all those two members can't discuss within closing government, because after all, you're competing against each other. If at all you start discussing all your pointers, that will benefit out the other team member, right? That is something that you don't want. So just listen out to the opening government and just present the substantive point, and I'll come to all the role play and everything that you have later on. So any question till now?
Yes, ma'am. One is that can we raise a point of information to the government if we are the government? Like if we are the opening government, can we raise a POI to the CG?
No, you can't do that. You always remember this. You'll only have to raise a POI in the opposing stance. right? Irrespective of the competition that you have with that of the closing government, you have to support their case, you have to support their arguments. And the competition is all about how well elaborative you are of your constructives compared to your opening government, how well you substantiate your constructives or let's say assumptions with reasoning compared to your opening governments. You have to support the arguments of an opening government, but also be elaborative in nature. So you cannot at all at any cost rebut their case at all, be it in terms of POI or be it in terms of rebuttal. I'll come to the rule.
Question.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, so I see that the speeches are up to 5 minutes. Does that remain consistent throughout the tournament, or does it increase to 7 minutes maybe in the grand finals?
No, for this one, we only have 5 minutes. I think for the finals as well.
Okay, thank you.
I just want to see, I'm seeing the questions that are coming on the group, and I'm deliberately not going to address the questions of the finals right now because we just want to focus on the format. So just allow us to come to that a little bit.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes, Uttam.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, I have a question, ma'am. Like, ma'am, in British parliamentary format, ma'am, there are usually, ma'am, 2 panelists in the president, ma'am. Ma'am, will there be, if they both will be there in this format or?
I think Uttam's voice is breaking. Is he asking about 2 panelists or 2 adjudicators?
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, they do because, ma'am, in the British parliamentary format, ma'am, usually there are, ma'am, 2 panelists and 1 president also, ma'am. Will they be also there?
For the first round of qualifiers, you will have 1 adjudicator per match.
Okay.
Ma'am, when we will get the topics?
Yeah, so just on quick questions, I'll just address a bunch of questions that are coming on the chat and then I'll give it back to you, Shreya. So any questions on logistics, which is that how do I choose my team member? Who's my team member? When will I get the role? Will come to you by end of the day. The team formation, your role, your prepared motion will come to you by end of the day. So give us some time after the call. We will circulate it today, right? How many debates will I have on both days? Ananya, all of these questions will get answered when you see the Excel because it will be very comprehensive. It will say, Ananya, this is your debate 1. This is the role you are going to play. This is your timing. This is your debate 2. It's an unprepared. This is your timing. So all of that logistics will get answered. Anybody who doesn't have any team member will get paired up. You can please tell us if that works or doesn't work once you get the Excel. So we won't address any more logistics right now over here.
So ma'am,
right?
when we receive the Excel?
Yes, ma'am, I have one more doubt, ma'am.
Yeah, just 1 second. So everybody else, have you got it? Like from logistics, from timing, all of that will come over there. Now, any other questions in terms of, are there 12 teams selected from each grade or overall? It's 12 teams overall. It's 12 teams overall, right? But we will have 1 novice final because Abir, I can see you are in grade 7. So we want to make sure anybody who's very young, anybody who's never debated before has an opportunity and representation as well. So we will have 1 finals for the novice as well. Right, Ananya, we are the ones who are deciding which team is doing opening, closing. Allow us to please share this Excel. The faster we finish the call on time, the better we will be able to send it across a little later in the day. Are you all also receiving the emails from us?
Yes,
ma'am. Isn't received. There is only one. And Kamal, can you please reiterate the Hello Ogly number and the email? In fact, I think the email is better. Just communicate on that if you're not receiving the emails or you need any clarifications. We are all watching you. So no worries on that. Now coming back to any other questions that were there on finals, there were some questions of use of internet. I want you to understand that British parliamentary is about logic. It's about structure. It isn't necessarily about knowledge. You don't have to get your exact facts right. So in unprepared motions, I think it's the way you are putting the context, the structure that wins more points rather than saying, I'm going to go to Google and research 20 points. So don't worry about it. We'll tell you how to do that in a bit. But what's most important right now, and this is why the reason we structured it like that you must understand when I receive the Excel sheet, say, for example, I'm Jagriti Giri, Jagriti, hello. And I see that, okay, ma'am seems to say that I'm going to be closing opposition. What does that mean? What is expected of me? What will the judge measure me on is what is important for you to understand. So I really want you to all please to listen to Shreya ma'am when she explains what does opening government mean? What does closing opposition mean? What is expected of you when you do closing government and closing opposition, right? Yeah, Manraj, we will keep answering your questions. Now, I'm just putting that email ID once for you to ask any questions further. But my suggestion right now is to just focus on the call. It's very rich. It's getting recorded, so you can hear it again. But just focus. That's the hello email ID. After you've done the call, you'll realize most of the questions are answered. If they're still not clear, then you can drop us a name. Right. Okay, Shreya ma'am, over to you because we have a good 30 minutes to go over this.
So as I said, the closing teams cannot contradict their opening teams. It's very well mentioned here. You can always and you'll always have to support their case and further build upon that. And here is when I come to the speaker roles. Most important. But before that, we have to cover the speaking order, right? So the speaking order is very simple. It's the alternate order. Focus now till 4. Forget about the rest 4 that we have. 5, 6, 7, 8. Forget about it. Just focus on the 1, 2, 3, 4 that we have. We are discussing here about the opening team. What is the speaking order? First, we start with the first speaker of the opening government. That is going to be the first team and the first speaker of the first team that we have, the Prime Minister. Then after comes the first speaker of the second team, that is the opening opposition. After that, again, we have the second speaker of the first team opening government. Then again, we have the second speaker of the second team, which is the opening opposition. First, second, in an alternate order. I hope it's clear. Now moving on to the closing.
No, it's not clear to me.
Kamal, can you create a breakout room for very young students, please? And just advise me once the breakout room is open. I'll just let you know who to take there. Sanskriti,
Sure.
hold on. I'm just creating a group for, I can see very young starters as well. So we'll just create a breakout room so that you have your own space as well. Yes, Shreya, please carry on.
Okay, so in the opening teams, we have this 4 speakers who speak in an alternate order, starting with the first speaker of the first team, which is the opening government, then going to the first speaker of the second team, which is opening opposition, then second speaker of the first team, second speaker of the second team. So this is the basic order that we follow for the opening team. The same order continues for the closing teams as well. Now focus on the 5, 6, 7, 8. First speaker of the closing government comes up, that we refer to as the government member. Then comes the first member of the closing opposition that we refer to as the opposition member. Now comes the second speaker of the closing government that we refer to as the government whip. And then comes the second speaker, the last speaker, opposition whip of the closing opposition. So we just follow the alternate order. That's very simple. Any question in that regard?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So Sanskriti, I'm going to put you, anybody else who's uncomfortable, and it's perfectly fine for you to say, I still have a lot of doubts, because then we will do a separate junior session, please. Quick show of hands. So Sanskriti, for sure, I can see 8 more people. Kamal, have you created the breakout room?
Yes.
Can you please
You
tell
can-
Sanskriti and the 8 children who would like a quick session, I suspect they are 7th and 8th graders, onto the breakout room, please?
Okay. Sure.
Lovely. Please, it's fine. Just raise your hand if you think that the pace is a little too much. Yes, Sarah, Mantek, obviously the PPT will be shared with you. You can go over it at your own pace. The recording will also be shared with you, right? So just raise your hand if you think you need a slightly slower pace session. Kamal sir will do that as well.
Ma'am, all of this will be shared on mail.
Yes, absolutely. I'll put it on the WhatsApp group also, so that's easier. Yeah. So can you now please continue, Shreya ma'am?
Yeah, sure. Okay, so we're done with the speaking order. Now comes the most important part. So please pay attention from here on. Just pay attention on this PPT part. Just forget about the logistics, forget about all questions, whether or not PPT is going to be shared. Of course, everything will be shared with you. But for now, just stay there on the PPT, because this is the most important part, the role play and the speaker roles, right? So starting with the speaker roles of the first 2 speakers of the opening government and the opening opposition. PM is referred to as the first speaker of the opening government. We have 2 teams, right? In the opening teams. Forget about the closing teams for now. Completely forget about it. Just focus on the opening teams, right? In the opening team, we have opening government and opening opposition. The first speaker of the opening government is called the Prime Minister. And the first speaker of the opening opposition is called the leader of opposition. Just forget about everything else. Just focus here now. Prime Minister and leader of opposition. Both are the first speaker of the opening government and opening opposition respectively. Now, what are they supposed to do throughout the 5-minute speech that they're going to present? Obviously, there needs to be a proper structure that they need to follow. What exactly is that structure? So firstly, they need to introduce the topic. For example, the topic is this house will prefer, let's say, online learning for a holistic growth of children. They need to firstly introduce what exactly is online learning, what exactly is holistic growth of children. That should ideally be of 15 to 20 seconds, not more than that, because you obviously have to allocate more time to flag your points, present your constructives, present your arguments, and present your conclusion. So a basic introduction of what do you understand by online learning, what do you understand from holistic growth. Now define the motion, as in how are you going to restrict the motion? Present a context. This is something that we call as context, restricting the motion. For example, when we talk about online learning, there are various forms of online learning, right? There is a hybrid form of online learning that we also do in schools in form of smart class. There's a form of online learning that we do just in order to enhance our skill set through Coursera and through so many mediums that we have, the diploma-based certification courses, the trading-based courses. So there are various types of online learning, right? The debate, even the debate that you're doing right now is a form of learning that is facilitated by this online medium. So there are various online learning. So in your definition, suppose you say that here we are talking about those kind of online learning, which is basically industry related. For example, that allows me to enhance my skills. I am learning, let's say, a Java or a Python program to further enhance my skills so that I'm able to get a job. That is something that we define as online learning. And as a part of this online learning, we are not leaving school learning and core learning behind. We're just adding up to it what exactly allows me to have a holistic growth. For example, I'll be going to schools, but I spent some time in some training courses, and that will allow me to enhance my skills. So that is how you restrict the motion, right? You explain what is the meaning of online motion for your stance, something that is yeah. I think somebody spoke something.
Carry on, sure.
All right. Okay. So this is how you define the motion. This is how, do not unnecessarily restrict that. Also, do not unnecessarily make that a lot more expansive. Just say what suits sort of your constructives and arguments that you're presenting. Now, third part is flag your points. For example, if you're having 3 arguments to support your case, A, you'll be talking about how it will increase, let's say, how it will not have any demographic barrier, and therefore children from all across India will be able to learn various courses, and that will enhance their holistic growth. Secondly, we'll tell that school learning has some gaps, and therefore in order to fill those gaps, we have online learning in order to develop your skill set. So these are 2 arguments that I'm presenting. So before you actually start off with the arguments, allow the adjudicator to know that what arguments are you presenting. So adjudicator or honorable jury member or adjudicator, I'll be presenting 2 arguments. First will be based upon how online learning has no demographic barrier, therefore it allows holistic growth. Secondly, how school learning has a gap. Now allow me to start off with my first argument, elaborate upon the first argument. Now allow me to elaborate upon my second argument. I'll elaborate the second argument and then go on to a conclusion. What exactly ideally should be a conclusion? Conclusion is a summary sort of for your entire speech, summarizing the important part of your constructives. For example, throughout your speech, you've proven how this online learning is beneficial to the major stakeholder or to the major, component of your speech, that is students. Why are we even talking about online learning in the first place? It is to benefit students, right? So here, through my case and through my debate, I proved to you that how it is beneficial for students, because that will lead to a holistic development and that will make them employed, etc. And therefore, we should be winning the debate or something of that sort. Something that allows you to summarize and something that allows you to be persuasive and then convince the judges why your team should be winning the debate and why your team has a stronger case. That is a 15-20 second conclusion, how it is supposed to be. Now coming to the rebuttal. Rebuttal is not for the prime minister, right? Because prime minister will be the first speaker. How will they be having any rebuttal? Because by the time they present, they would not have listened to anybody else speak. But by the time leader of opposition presents, leader of opposition meaning first speaker of the opening opposition, by the time leader of opposition presents, they would have already listened to the prime minister, right? So they'll have to present a rebuttal for not more than 1 minute. All right, I hope it's clear. This is the role of prime minister and leader of opposition, except for the fact that leader of opposition does rebuttal as well, and prime minister does not do that. Any question in that regard?
We'll pause over here, and again, Shreya, maybe you can stop sharing if you'd like to.
I have a doubt.
It's my also doubt.
Yeah, please go ahead. Let's just take some doubts now.
My doubt is that when we're like ma'am said that we have to support our allies and things like that, and we have to contradict our opponents also. So what kind of can we call them? Like, how do we have to address them? Like, can we say like my opponents team members said this point or my ally said this point? How can we address them?
You're basically talking about addressing your opponent, right?
Both opponents and
Both.
team members.
Team members
Both
as
opponents and-
well as the opponent. I think that's a very interesting question.
Okay, so firstly, coming to the team member, right? Suppose you are a part of the opening government. Suppose two people are there in the opening government. First speaker comes and talks about 4 arguments, right? That I'll be presenting 4 arguments. 2 arguments are going to get covered by me. 2 rest arguments are going to get covered by my second speaker. And that is how ideally it should be done. Because second speaker's role is more elaborative in nature. They keep on building the case of the first speaker further, right? So the rest 2 arguments are going to be presented by my second speaker. Now the second speaker comes up, defines the motion, presents a rebuttal, because obviously second speaker is supposed to present a rebuttal to the opponent team, present a rebuttal, and then say that as my first speaker already, presented 2 constructives, further elaborating upon that, here is something that I'll be presenting. Flag your points, 2 constructives that you are presenting, and elaborate that and present a conclusion. It is as simple as that. Just mention my first speaker presented this, and here I'm continuing with this. Flag your points, elaborate upon that. Now, coming to the opposition, till now, any doubt, like the same team member? Yeah.
No, ma'am.
All right.
I have a doubt.
I had a doubt. Yeah.
Just 1 second. I'll call upon the students so that everybody gets a fair chance. Is it comfortable to you, all of you? You're able to understand with the example that ma'am is saying? Yeah. Quick nod of head is fine, or thumbs up is fine. Shreya, just quickly want to take Anushka Malhotra's doubt. Anushka, what is the question that you have?
I just raised it by mistake.
Okay, no worries. Please put down your hands if you don't have a doubt right now. Avnit? Anvit Bhushan. Sorry, my bad. Anvit, what's your doubt over here that you have? Puranjay, doubt that you have?
My doubt was that only, how to address that.
Perfect. So you got it. I mean, basically, you are breaking up your 4 arguments into 2 and 2, and then going forward. Aditi, Divan, what is the doubt that you have?
Yes, ma'am. I wanted to ask that in the flag your points, did you mean that we first need to brief out the points which we are about to speak, like first point, second point, and then explain it, or like we should
Yes.
introduce the point and then explain it at the same time?
Yeah, the first one, you should be able to brief it before actually elaborating upon that. Because as an adjudicator, I'll be having your points and then I'll be seeing whether or not you elaborate that sufficient.
Yes, ma'am. And what about the points that the upcoming member of my team is going to speak?
That's up to you to decide. No, like if there are 2 members in a particular team, you need to calibrate that. See, there are 4 major arguments that as a team we are presenting. Now let's divide that as per our comfort. I think 2 arguments I'll be presenting and the next 2 arguments you present. But somehow all 4 arguments need to be interrelated with each other. You can't come and present 2 arguments entirely different and second speaker 2 arguments entirely different and out of context. That should be within the context. Now, what is the context? The context that I explained, right? That online learning, here we are talking about such kind of online learning, which is certification based, training based, industry training based. So in that particular context, it needs to be. You can't defy the context that you present.
Ma'am,
So
what
should I
is the
also,
topic?
ma'am, should I brief the points which the next member is going to speak of my team also,
Yes.
or that I should leave on that member?
No, you should ideally present all 4 constructors that are going to be presented by the all the 2 team members, because after all, you don't have to present a rebuttal to anybody as the first speaker in case you're in the opening government. So you should ideally present all 4 sort of arguments that you're going to present. Now the second speaker comes and he or she will remind the adjudicator that these are the 2 arguments I'm going to present.
Yeah, I just want to take the doubts of all the senior kids for a bit. So Pavni, you've been waiting. Any question that you had?
Excuse me, ma'am.
Wait, Sanskriti, I've just created a breakout room for you. So just hold on. Not here for a second. Yeah, Pavni.
Yes, ma'am. Substantive points were mentioned in the speaking format. Could you please exemplify?
Yeah.
Yeah, substantive point is similar to constructives, right? Substantive point, what are you gonna speak as an argument to substantiate your stance that you have? So that is where substantive comes from, but that is basically in general just arguments that you're presenting. The constructives. I hope you understand constructives.
Yes, ma'am.
Lovely. So just come. I'll just call this out. So Ananya, did we go through your question? We did, right?
Ma'am, I had another question. As the closing government, as part of the closing government, how do we call out to the opening government on the same side?
Yeah, I'll come later on with an example. So say
okay.
Ma'am, how long the orientation is?
Till 8:30, unless somebody wants to stay back. That's why I just want to finish anything. So now, Shreya, if you can just pause on to your questions or just pinging on the group, the children who are left, please put those questions back on the group, please. Shreya, let's move on. I just want to go over the roles of the opposition.
Yeah, sure.
The rest of you just put this on the group. We'll keep answering that.
All right. So the first speaker of the opening government and opening opposition are done. Now comes defining the motion that I've already described. Just be reasonable, follow the spirit of the motion, do not be repetitive, do not unnecessarily restrict the motion, and do not spend too much time defining the motion. Ideally, definition needs to be 30, 40, 50 seconds, not more than that. So I think it's all clear. Now, yeah, this thing I already explained. In case you need to take a look, this house prefers online learning for a holistic growth of students. Now, what sort of definition that you provide? It applies to students who are not dependent heavily upon lab researchers, because obviously those who will be having practical classes and lab researchers, why would they prefer online learning for a growth? Because their entire sort of that thing is based upon the lab researchers. So that is how you build your case stronger, right? Lab researchers is something that you're not going to consider. Secondly, it applies to diploma-based certification and training. Thirdly, core offering of physical places, we are not undermining that. So this is how you define the motion that becomes supportive of your case and argument that you're presenting. All right. Now comes the speaker roles of the second speaker of both opening government and opening opposition. We are dealing opening teams here. Forget about the closing teams now. All right. We just completed first speaker of both opening government and opening opposition. Here we have the second speaker of both opening government and opening opposition, right? What can be the possible structure? Obviously, introduction, you already know what introduction is. Outlining speech, you already know that. Rebuttal here is about 2 to 3 minutes. So major part of your speech is going to be rebuttal. Why? Because when you're the second speaker, you would have already listened to both the first speakers. So as a second speaker, you need to spend more time in rebuttal. So I know it's difficult to rebut all the pointers of your opponent, just especially at a point in time when you would have already prepared your speeches. So do not entirely prepare your speech, just prepare the outline of it and leave some space for the rebuttal. Listen to the speaker very carefully, listen to the opponent very carefully, and just flag their points and provide a rebuttal to it. So that is how it is supposed to be done. And then coming to 1-2 minutes of your time needs to be dedicated towards the substantive or the constructive that you're presenting. That you need to calibrate with the first speaker, right? Whatever was left by the first speaker, you need to elaborate upon that, as already discussed right now, right? So just this and conclusion. Conclusion also you already know. Just major part of your speech is going to be rebuttal. Now, any questions on that part?
Ma'am, how do we find that who's going to be the speaker, who's going to be prime minister?
We'll allocate that. So by the end of the day, and I can see young kids asking that again, by end of the day, we will tell you what is the role that you are going to play. So you will know that whether you are opening government, but within that opening government, who goes as first speaker and who goes as second speaker is something that you and your team members can decide.
Yeah.
Okay.
And rebuttal in every.
Ma'am, I had just a quick question. That as the Deputy Prime Minister, I'll be contradicting or be providing a rebuttal to the Leader of Opposition's points, and as a DLO, I'll be providing a rebuttal to the DPM's points.
Yes. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you.
And in case you do not explicitly understand right now that what is the rebuttal going to be, etc., so that all will be explained in the next 2 days that we have for the workshop. We'll be taking up some examples of the role play that we have, so you'll be understanding that more explicitly. So here, just absorb the speaker role and just absorb the basic format that we have. All right.
Yes, ma'am. I have a question.
Now, yeah, go ahead.
Yes, ma'am. I didn't understand. Like, ma'am, how will we flag our points, ma'am? Can you give an example?
Yeah, I think I already explained that thrice, but I think how you flag your points is how you brief your speech. For example, in your speech, if you're speaking for the motion, you'll be having three, let's say, arguments, right? I'll tell you how gene editing is bad for humanity. For example, if the motion is about gene editing, or let's say simply just stick to the motion that we are having, online learning is something that is the best for the holistic growth. So I'll talk about how it will, school learning has a significant amount of gap that is going to be filled by online learning. B, how it will be accessible to those in the rural area. So these two arguments that I have. Now, before actually going on to elaborate my arguments, I'll tell the adjudicator that adjudicator, these are the two arguments that I have. A, how it will be accessible by the rural area. B, how it will be important for the holistic growth, etc. Whatever you have, you need to just tell the adjudicator about that before going on into the argument and elaborating that. I hope it's clear. Yeah, the person who had the doubt, I hope it's clear.
Okay, ma'am, it's clear.
All right. So moving on, till now, opening government, opening opposition. So basically the opening teams we covered. Now moving to something that is slightly different is the closing team. The role, expectation, and everything is slightly different. Now what it is, let's try to understand. Starting off with the speaker roles of the first speaker of closing government and the first speaker of closing opposition, same as the opening teams, right? The first speaker here, we call the first speaker as government member, and the first speaker of the closing opposition is opposition whip. All right, sorry, opposition member. All right, so you need to just remember the nomenclature and everything. So the first speaker of the closing government and the first speaker of closing opposition we are considering here. All right, forget about the rest part. First speaker of closing.
Can we leave the PPT will be shared via WhatsApp also?
Yeah, we can. Jagrati, please don't annotate on the deck over here. If you are done with the session, please feel free. If you want to spend a little more time, I think we'll take another 10 minutes to go into the details of it. Please stay. Right? And any other doubts that you have, the WhatsApp group is there. The chat window is here. Try to put it on the group, because if you leave it as a one-on-one DM to me, it gets difficult to respond to everything, right? When you put it on the group, then 4 people from my team can answer it as well. So what I'm proposing is, and allow me to come back over here, I can see a few students who are very young. For tomorrow's session, maybe I will give a separate time slot to them, because then we'll be able to spend good time with you. Because you are starting out, you might have more questions than the others, and it's always very good to have questions.
Ma'am?
Yes.
Ma'am, I just had a doubt regarding the group. I joined late, so I'm not sure if I'm in any group as of now.
So if you aren't on the WhatsApp group that we've created over here, kindly put your number on the message box over here with your name. The team is going to add you. But you have to be on the WhatsApp.
I'll add it in the chat.
Yeah, add it on the chat over here. Mark it to everyone, please. But please, you have to be on the WhatsApp group, because the teams, the team formations, the PPT, the YouTube.
Yes, ma'am. Okay.
All of it is over there. All of you, please do go and check your spam folder as well, because you will start receiving mails from Indian Debating League or from OGLI. We want to make sure that it doesn't go into your spam and stay there. So please do double check that as well. Ishan, thank you so much. So if anybody else has not been added to the WhatsApp group, it's very important that you are there. Please give only one number per person, because we'll cross limits otherwise. Right? Any other questions that anybody had? Because then we'll go deeper into the speaker role.
Ma'am, will younger ones will come in breakout room?
Yes. Sanskriti, I can see the younger ones have got their hands raised, and I know their hands are getting tired. So I will keep a separate session tomorrow for sure.
Ma'am, I had a question.
Yes, Anand.
Like, I was just wondering what sort of genre will the questions be coming on in the impromptu?
You see the motions and the topics?
Like, I just want to know what kind of genre. Like, is it related to social studies, economics? I was a bit
Just give us
confused.
an hour or 2 hours. It will be very interesting. I can assure you that. I mean, I had a big smile on my face when I saw the motions. It will never be so difficult that we are competing for knowledge. We are competing for structured instructives.
When will we be getting the topic for the prepared
Ranjit, you
debate?
asked me that question. I have answered it 5 times, but give us some time. By end of the day,
These topics aren't like, are they general knowledge topics, or is there like a particular subject we have to go through to understand the topic?
you'll find these are generic in nature. These are current affairs. These are topics which are value motions also.
Current affairs as like Russian-Ukrainian war, like kind of like that.
That could be a point that can definitely come
All
up.
right.
Yeah. Any other questions? So should I just stop sharing? I just want to answer any other questions in next.
Yes, ma'am, I had a question.
Yeah, please go ahead.
So, ma'am, I was asking, I had a doubt about rebuttal. So, if the deputy prime minister is doing the rebuttal, so can she question only the deputy opposition leader, or he can also question the leader of the opposition who have already spoken and gone?
Sure, you want to take that?
Yeah, please come again.
Yes, ma'am. So I was asking that if the deputy prime minister is doing the rebuttal, so can he only question the deputy leader of the opposition, or can he also question leader of the opposition?
He can question anyone.
He can question both of them, but what you're talking about, deputy prime minister. But by the time deputy prime minister comes in, he wouldn't have listened the speech of the second speaker of the opposition, deputy leader of opposition.
Yes, ma'am.
Deputy
So
leader of
let's
opposition
take
is fourth in number.
Yes, ma'am. So let's take the example of deputy leader of the opposition. So he can question any two members of the opening government.
In a way, yeah. In a way, I mean, so you're typically questioning people who've spoken before you, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So if you are DPM, right, if you're the second speaker of the opening government, by the time you present your speech, you would have only listened to the first speaker of opening opposition, the leader of opposition. So how would you then provide a rebuttal to the second speaker of the opening opposition? You will
Yes,
not have
ma'am.
presented your speech by the time you're presenting your speech. So by the time you're presenting your speech, anybody who has spoken before you of the opposing stance, obviously you can.
Yes, ma'am. That clears, madam. Thank
Any
you,
other
ma'am.
question? Not so much on logistics, but what Shreya ma'am explained with respect to speaker roles.
Ma'am, I have a question that, ma'am, if let's say I am in the government like team, so ma'am, there in my team I have my partner and the other team as well.
Yes.
So, ma'am, actually we are not allowed to discuss, so that's a separate team, and they can also. So, ma'am, wouldn't be like a weird thing as there is an opposing team as well, and plus on your
Own team.
there are.
Yeah. So typically what happens is Monday you will hear a topic and you will say, listen, these are 6-7 constructors I can have. Now, if I am the closing government, which means government team has spoken before me, then you might not want to repeat their points, right? So you will say, okay, I've thought about 5-6 good points, but I just saw that the opening government used 2 of them and elaborated it very well. So I want to get marks on uniqueness. So I will pick up my next 2 points. So you're right. What happens is that the opening government gets lesser time, so they are getting those 3-4 points to speak, but the closing government has more time to observe what's happening. Okay, these guys made these 2 points, the opposing team made these 2 points. Now you are intelligently thinking on your feet, so you have some of your points which are there, but you're saying, further to add to my opening government, I'd like to further elaborate, or I would like to incrementally add a few points contradictory to the opening opposition. I would like to clarify. So you can use that incremental time to plan it well.
Yes, ma'am. Like we can clarify and not repeat their points. And ma'am, as she was telling that, he told that we can also, the other person can also oppose. So if let's say I am the other team and they have given a point, so how can they oppose us in certain manner?
Yeah. Sure, I love this question. Do you want to take it, or should we do it as a part of the demo when we do it?
Yeah, I think demo would be better. I think you'll understand once we present the examples, right?
Correct.
Or else many confusions.
But if we don't have any other doubts, then can we leave?
Yeah, absolutely. Please do.
Excuse me, ma'am,
Go
I
ahead.
have doubt now.
I just
Ma'am?
want to say, yeah, 1 second. I just want to say one thing, that what we will do after this session is tomorrow we are going to just iterate the session, because all of you will receive the material, absorb it, and have questions, and we will do one demo debate. Right? So we are going to do the one demo debate so that we are able to sort of say, oh, okay, now I can understand why this happened in a certain way. Or we will just do a little bit of role play. All of you now play opening government. Let's see who puts the arguments how. Yeah, any other questions on the speaker role right now? Otherwise, I don't want to take any more questions right
Yes,
now.
ma'am, I have a question.
Go ahead.
Yes, ma'am, can the closing government can a closing government give a rebuttal to the opening government of the other side, ma'am? Like, ma'am,
No, you can't. You can't present any rebuttal or any POI to the one speaking the same stance as yours.
no,
Opening
ma'am.
also speaking for the motion. Yeah.
I think, ma'am, this one, if you are a closing side of the government, ma'am, can you give a rebuttal to the opposition, opening opposition?
Opening
Yeah,
opposition.
they can give a rebuttal, obviously. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ma'am?
So yes.
Ma'am, I just want to say something. You earlier said that you'll enable this recording somewhere. Will
Yeah.
it be on the group?
Yeah. The WhatsApp group is your lifeline, so the link will be shared over there. I
Okay,
am
ma'am.
recording the session right now. Correct.
And just one last thing. You said that there will be a mock debate tomorrow. Can I
Yes.
know what time, please?
The time remains the same. 18th, 19th, 20th, 7:30 to 8:30.
And ma'am, the topic?
Give us some time. Allow us to release it.
Oh, ma'am, I had a question.
Yeah.
Ma'am, it was like that in the basic roles, we got to know that there's Prime Minister and Deputy Prime Minister. So, like that, there are two people chosen from the team. So, like there may be more people in the team as well. So, will they get a chance to speak as well?
Sorry, go ahead, Shreya.
Yeah, so basically you're saying that there are 4 members in a team. No, there are 2 members in a team and 2 members in the closing government. So do not confuse closing government and opening government as one team, right? They are 2 separate teams. Opening government has 2 teams. You just need to calibrate with your team member. What closing government does, it's none of your job to decide. It's none of your job to calibrate with them. That is something that is very clear. Closing government, opening government, very distinct from each other.
Yeah.
Though they have to support each other's case, but no, yeah.
Yeah, I just got it. Naina, that was a very good question. I can make out you observing very well. I'm just quickly running through the questions that I'm seeing on the group. Guys who are raising their hands, put it on the group. 3 things. One is that Manraj saying, grade 10, yes, we expect you to just put on mute yourself on mute if you're not speaking. We expect you to put new points as a closing government and closing opposition. That's the right thing to do. The other bit is, yes, Shreyansh Tandon, we will try to make sure that your partners are from the same school, because it allows your chemistry. Technology is allowed to prepare the speech only for the prepared motion, right? Not for unprepared, for sure. When you get that 30 minutes time. Yes, what are topics, teams you will get in some time. Okay. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am, I'm Devika, and I just wanted to say, like, me and my partner are not from the same school, but we have filled each other's name in the form.
That's okay. As long as you know each other, it helps your cause, right? That's fine. If you put your name, no, if you put a partner's name, we are going to give that the first preference. There's a reason we asked you, right?
Ma'am, I had a quick question. Ma'am, as the closing government, when you say that we have to provide an extension of the substantive points provided by the opening government, does that mean that we have to elaborate upon those specific points, or do we take them in context to our own argument catered to the proposition?
Shreya.
Yeah, I'm sorry, please come again.
Sir, Shreya, yeah, please go ahead, Lavanya. I think you articulated.
Right. So I was asking that as the closing government, when you say that we have to provide an extension of the points in our speech, does that mean that we have to elaborate upon the substantive points provided by the opening government, or do we take them in context to our own argument catered to the proposition?
Yeah, that was the point. I was about to come through the slide of examples that we had. So I think it will clear all your doubts that we have with regards to the role of the closing government. Just allow me to share my screen. And
so Shreya ma'am is going to take another 10 minutes and finish this up. So just be, concentrating over there. The finals will be a combination, so we'll come to that later, Shagun. Let's focus on what we have right now. So share 5 minutes and then we can wrap this up. Any other questions that they have? You have the WhatsApp group.
Ma'am, I do have a question, so may I ask it now?
Quickly. Sure, then up screen share.
Ma'am, for example, if I'm speaking and I start the rebuttal part, so will it be my privilege to decide when I have to end the rebuttal and then continue with my conclusion and other points, or I have to go until the other member is still asking the questions?
Other member is still asking the question means?
She means POI, I think. So you mean POI?
No, ma'am, I'm talking about rebuttal because as you were presenting the distinctions like introduction and then flag your points, then rebuttal was in between, and we also had conclusion and adding some more points after that. So I was asking that is it our privilege to decide when we need to stop rebuting and then continue with our points and conclusion?
No, it's not your privilege to decide. When I was sharing the screen, I think timing was mentioned there besides that. Like expected time for the rebuttal is 2 to 3 minutes, not more than that, depending on your speaker role. Like there were 1 to 2 minutes as well, but depending on the speaker role, that should be the ideal time. Because when you're talking about deputy prime minister, right, they obviously have to present constructives. So you can't spend 3 to 4 minutes presenting rebuttals because you end up losing the marks in your role fulfillment. That is something that happens. I hope it's clear.
Yes, ma'am, but what if the other person keeps asking the question? So I'll have to answer them.
No, the other person can't keep asking questions because what you're mentioning here is a POI, point of interjection, a point of information, right? So once the person asks question, there's no cross questioning to it. No cross questioning, absolute no cross questioning. They ask the question, you respond to it, but ideal time should be 30-40 seconds, not more than that. You can't just keep on responding to their questions for 5 long minutes, and neither will they be cross questioning you. That is something that
Aditi, you have the option of not taking the POIs and clarifying to the group to say, I will not be taking any more POIs. They can't be badgering you with POI and distracting you from what you want to say.
Yes. Ideally, you should take 1 POI at least. 1 POI should be taken throughout your entire speech. But if they keep on asking you 4-5 POIs, you can't be losing your constructive just at the cost of, presenting your answers to the POI. Just simply say that, no, I won't be able to take it right now. Or simply, you can show signs via a hand or simply, no, I won't take it. So it's up to you to decide.
And we can get into it as we do the demo debate. It's a good question asked, Aditi. Any other questions on the structure and the roles? Otherwise, shall just wrap this up.
Okay, so now so many people had doubts with regards to the extension part. What exactly do we mean by the extension? Before that, we had this role of the government member and the opposition member, who are the first speaker of each closing government and closing opposition. Now the same structure is going to be followed: introduction, outlining of speech, rebuttal. Now here rebuttal is going to be bust. Why? Because by the time the government member presents the speech and opening member presents the speech, they would have listened to the entire opening member's case, opening government and opening opposition. So in the rebuttal, they need to be vast, as in they need to characterize the major clash between the two teams and in a way that is supportive of their constructive that they are presenting, right? So the major characterization of clash needs to come from both the first speakers of the closing government and closing opposition. Now coming to the extension, they should ideally provide extension 1, extension 2, which should ideally take like 3 minutes, like 30 seconds or 2 minutes for your rebuttal, and then 2-3 minutes for your extension. Now, what exactly is the extension? Let's understand that through the example, right? Now, the motion says that this house would prefer online learning for a holistic growth. Opening government. Just listen this carefully and hear out this carefully, because this is something that will actually allow you to understand what exactly is an extension. So let's focus on opening government, right? Opening government came in the very beginning. They told that, okay, this house will prefer online learning because there won't be any geographical constraints, and we would be able to, have that holistic growth because so many people are deprived of good quality of education right now. Secondly, due to the geographical constraints. Secondly, they talk about how it is beneficial for developing economies, as this will, make students suit industry standards, that will enhance employment, so on and so forth. They talk about these two major constructives. Closing government comes, they have to support their case, and in the substantive point, they mention that, okay, the opening government told that it is more accessible as no geographical constraints, and also it will reach out to rural areas. Rural areas are going to be greatly benefited because there is a significant amount of gap in the school learning that we see in rural areas. They can easily access the internet once we start setting up the network bandwidth within of specific kilometers of radius, and they'll be greatly benefited via online learning. That will also enhance the employment of rural areas. They won't have to switch places to urban areas just in order to get a job, just in order to learn something new, just in order to get a good college, right? So this is very beneficial for rural areas. So you see how they support that it is more accessible as no geographical constraint. And when you consider this argument that how rural areas will be greatly benefited, it is on the same premise of the argument of how it is more accessible as no geographical barrier is there. Now, this geographical barrier is interrelated with rural area coming into play. So you support this argument. You base your entire argument that you're presenting on the case that was presented by the opening government, but you add a new dimension to it. They talk about geographical constraint. You also add rural areas into it as to how they are going to get benefited. Secondly, they talk about developing economies are going to be benefited because this will make students suit industry standards that will keep on enhancing the employment, and that will increase the overall development of a nation. Very good argument. Now the closing government comes up and says that my opening government talked about how it will be beneficial in developing economies, and therefore it will also increase gross enrollment ratio because so many people now can get enrolled and can suit the industry standards. That will also enhance employment, so on and so forth. So something that is about gross enrollment ratio might seem a different argument, but that is somehow related to how it is beneficial in developing economies. Somehow related to that while also providing a new dimension to it. All right. I hope it's clear, the extension part.
Ma'am, can I ask one thing?
Sure, go ahead.
So ma'am, like when the closing government said that it will be like the rural areas will be greatly benefited. So in terms of that, can we cross question them?
No, you can't. Cross questioning, because you are speaking the same stance as theirs. Now, you can't cross question. You can neither cross question their case or definition, anything. You can't cross question. Neither can you present a POI to them. That is something that is very clear. Yeah.
Okay, so ma'am, we cannot ask them again that because we are repeating that.
Yeah, you can simply repeat that because that is something that allows you to present your constructive. Okay. That is substantive in nature. That is how you present an extension. Why do we refer to it as extension? Because you are somehow extending the arguments presented by opening government. That is also a test of how well you are analyzing their arguments, how well a good listener you are, right? Okay. That is the test of that as well. Closing government, definitely it's a difficult job to do that, to be able to listen to everyone and then analyze their arguments, then augment their argument with that of yours. But at the same time, it's interesting too. And you just have to be elaborative in nature. You just have to be a little tricky, as in you already have your set of arguments, right? 5-6 arguments you already have. Obviously, you have 30 minutes of preparation time. You would have already jotted so many arguments. Now you feel that, oh, how do I change my argument with respect to what the opening government has presented? No, you don't have to change the entire arguments. Just somehow try to attach these two arguments. For example, this rural area example, I might have jotted it down somewhere, but that's very easy to be connected with the geographical constraint argument that has been presented by the opening government. So in case you have arguments which are entirely different, try to mold it in a way that it somehow suits the argument presented by opening government. So you learn only when you start practicing the British parliamentary debate. This is just theory as long as you're not practicing it. Once you see the demo debate or once you start getting into it, you learn everything very properly.
Yeah. So I'm just, thank you so much, Shreya. Thank you for the session today. Like I said, you guys have, you can stop sharing the screen share. You all have just started the discussion and the journey on this one. And I can clearly see that, you've been a very patient audience. I'm going to propose two things that I can see. Some of you are novices. Some of you will require a little bit of a hand holding a little more, and that's a good thing to ask doubts. So what I will do is that I'm going to work back to the team and give a separate slot to the young ones over here, right? Or students who think that they need a lot more time to go through it. So we'll do a mini session for them for half an hour separately. But for the session for everybody else, it will start at 7:30 to 8:30. Because what happens is anyways, it tends to overflow for 15 minutes, right? You are all on the WhatsApp group. We'll add the ones that I've got. I've moved all the chat to myself to action it later. Thank you so much, Vani Adam, for your compliments. Finals, you will come to a little later, Agastya. There's a lot of time. Don't worry. We are going to meet up 3 times. You know, you will get a lot of answers. I'll answer all your questions that you were asking. Aditi is asking, what's the ideal number of arguments for this kind of debate, Shreya?
Yeah, please come again. Sorry, I missed
She's,
it.
she's asking on the group that what's the ideal number of arguments for this format of debate?
The ideal number of arguments also depends on which role you're playing. But in case you are the first speaker, let's say the opening government's first speaker, ideal number of arguments must be 3, at least. But in case you are the second speaker, obviously you'll have to spend some time rebutting. So ideal number of arguments can be 1 or 2.
Right,
That
because you're
depends.
addressing what your opposition has said.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So give us some time because we must get off this call to send you across your team, your positions, your roles, your topic for the prepared motion. So allow us to do a little bit of work now. With that, we will sign off. I will send the recording and I'm there on the WhatsApp group. So keep answering the question, but we'll keep addressing it. So if you are silent for a little while, which probably because we are watching the questions and we'll address it in one go. Right? Don't worry about the partners. I'm just sending this across. So it's okay if you're not from some other school. I mean, we can see that some schools have got one or two children. Allow us to be fair. We are good at it. We will pair it, and otherwise you can always ping us. I'm just going to put Ogly's email ID. You all know how to write emails. You all are getting emails. So just write to us if you have further anything to say. Lovely meeting you all. Thank you so much. All of you have a great evening further. But we'll meet tomorrow at 7:30 to 8:30. Take this session seriously and come with high energy for it. Thank you so much for your time, all of you.
Thank you, ma'am. Will there be a separate session to explain us the fixture, like how the rounds will go on?
Yeah, we will. We will go through that as well. So today we just wanted to start with the basics because we want you to start thinking about your roles. Right? Tomorrow we will do a little.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, Agastya.
Ma'am, we will get a separate session for our doubts.
You know, for the young ones, I'm thinking, Agastya, is it a good idea? Maybe for the young ones, we will do a half-an-hour session earlier, maybe starting at 7.
Yes, ma'am, it can clear many of the doubts.
Correct. So, Agastya, I'm thinking that the young ones that I can see, the 7th graders, maybe a few 8th graders, whoever haven't debated, 7 o'clock, I will call you early for a junior session. Let's call it a junior session or a novice session. We'll do that. So, Agastya, I'm going to put down your name for that for sure. Sanskriti's name is there for sure. And anybody else who feels that they want to join the junior session, please just put that on the
Shrishti.
Yeah, Shrishti, lovely, got it. So I think I'll send that across as a note. Lovely. May I then close the call and then get to work? Thank you so much, all of you. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.